Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lounge, which is a space for impactful healthcare leaders to get a fresh take on their work. I'm Katie, and I'm your host, and I help healthcare leaders to manage the complexity and the demands of their work so that you can feel hopeful and excited about the amazing roles that you've got. Wow, so a lot going on at the moment, and to be honest, I was juggling so many different ideas of what to share or talk about this week. And there was so much going on. I got really kind of distracted by all the different potentials and the possibilities. I was a little bit overwhelmed by it all. And actually, when I was stopped and thought about the conversations I've been having with people I've been working with or in workshops I've been doing, that was a general sense of the feeling going on for everyone as well. So there's a lot of demand and pressure at the moment, and focus and priority around the finances within healthcare, the expectations around savings and the impact that that's having. But there's also quite a lot of the change and the transformation and the restructures still going on and beginning to get embedded, and so new people taking on new teams and starting up new roles and trying to understand exactly what does that look like and what do I do in this space, and everything almost being done at pace, and that there's not a lot of depth in some of the things that have been doing. It's very reactive kind of space, and this idea of it's just more and more things being piled on top of people who are already exhausted. So there's two things around the amount of distraction. Someone did actually use the phrase to me, this is so distracting, all of this stuff, because there's the business as usual, there's work to be done. So this last few weeks, it's felt like these added things have been a distraction. And on top of that, it then feels even more overwhelming than what it usually is. And I had a really great conversation with somebody who was describing this kind of sense of overwhelm and describing it like they were drowning in all this stuff. And it reminded me of that idea about the amount of information coming at us. I was reading this book that had some interesting insights around distractions and information that we are now in receiving and how things have changed over time. And they used some evidence from 2007 about the amount of information that we're receiving on a daily basis. And they said it's the equivalent to reading 174 newspapers a day. Now, I can't even imagine that. And that was in 2007. And things have increased so much since then. So the amount of information coming at us just as human beings, let alone people working in a high demand, high complex system like healthcare, is just huge. So yeah, I guess trying to just normalise that fact that, yeah, you do feel overwhelmed because there is so much stuff going on. But this idea of drowning, we had a great kind of move on that kind of conversation, and the idea is, to what do you do when you're drowning? I long story for another day, but I have been I was on a ship that sunk. I was a teenager. It was on a school trip, and I ended up in the water. And I'm a confident swimmer, a good swimmer, but this was still obviously quite a traumatic kind of experience. And the first thing I grabbed hold of was a floating cushion, and there was somebody else swimming around as well. So we shared this cushion so that we could be working together and using this floating cushion. So that idea, when you're stuck in that water and you don't know what to do, what's one thing you can hang on to? What's one thing that you can use to stabilize you? What's your sort of foundational sort of groundingness is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is what's one topic. Sometimes when we've got, if it's a horde of stuff, there is so much I've got to do, I don't know where to start, just pick one. Because when there is so much, actually making that kind of decision, you get stuck and do nothing. You can very easily paralyze yourself. That is definitely where I've been at this week. I've had all this stuff and I've just looked at it and gone, I think I'll go and read a book. I've not made progress that I wanted to make because I've just become paralyzed by the sheer lists of stuff to do. So just pick one. Find that one cushion, find that one thing. Make it something enjoyable, make it something that is meaningful. You're going to be making progress towards your bigger goals around that you're working on at the moment, or the priorities that you're working on as a team or as a leader. So pick one thing. So you've got two things there. You can grab hold of that cushion, which is something that is grounding, something that gives you strength and energy to stay afloat, or find that one thing. Pick one thing, because doing nothing is going to get you nowhere. You're just stuck there. You need to pick one thing that's going to start giving you momentum. But the other thing in my story of being in the water was I found someone else. So sometimes it's what the help do you need? Asking for help can be a really hard thing, and I have lots of conversations with myself and with others around the challenges of what it means to ask for help and how we can feel about it. And like I was talking last week about the fact that we are not supposed to do this alone, asking for help is a sign of strength. It is a vulnerable thing to do, but that is where we create our connections and build trust. So asking for help is okay. And I am saying that message to myself right now as much as anybody else. Asking for help is okay. So who is around that can help you? Who can you turn to get advice from, or to just go for a walk with? Who are those people around you? So get some help. But the story, when I was chatting to this person around this feeling of drowning, we ended up going, hey, maybe we should just put our feet down. Maybe it's just about pausing and stopping for long enough to realise that if we put our feet down on the ground, that we're actually not drowning, we're actually in knee-deep water. And a lot of people say this to me when we're in coaching conversations, because just the act of laying everything out, and then you look at it and you go, oh yeah, okay, now I can see what I need to focus on. For me, sometimes it is writing it all down on a list. Some people, it is talking it out, but there's something about getting it out of your head, whether that be in a conversation with somebody else or writing it down, that you can go, all right, okay. You're putting your feet down to look at the perspective at your workload or everything else that's going on in your life from a different perspective, and going, okay, that's where we're at. Rightio. Now I can see a little bit more clearly that I actually am only in knee or thigh deep water, and these are the things that I need to tackle first. Several conversations along that line, that after a conversation it's gone like, all right, that was what I needed to do. It became really obvious as soon as it was out of my head. So there you go, two tips around what to do when it feels overwhelming, that there is an awful lot going on, that there's more and more information than you know what to do with. Take a moment to consider what's grounding you, what's the cushion that you can grab hold of, what's something that's floating nearby that you can grab hold of that's going to help give you direction and a bit of stability. Or what are your grounding practices or habits that give you the sense of energy? Who can help you? And what is a way that you can lay everything out so you can really see how deep is the water right now? Can I put my feet down? Is it okay for me to stand up? And then I can take that big breath and move on. There's a couple of other things in there that have come to my mind around this idea of distractions and how they can just throw you off considerably. That if we are distracted, it can take us, when we're interrupted, it can take us 23 minutes to get back to the same level of focus that we had. So distractions and interruptions can come in all sorts of spaces. We can do it to ourselves. It can come from other people. It can be the pings on our phone. I was in a session the other day online, and it was really weird. I didn't think I had notifications on my phone, but this email thing pinged up, and I could see the start of the email. And the content really kind of like drew me in, and I was kind of like, oh, did I really do that? Is that a problem? What do I need to do? I went completely off on this distraction, and I was kind of like, no. What I do well is stay focused on the session that I'm in. And I'm like going, what is going on for me? And it was a real wake up call for me. And that night I went through the phone and made sure all the notifications were turned off about different things, because I'm thinking I'm not having that happen again. Our phones, the phone thing is on a list for, along with the stuff that we came up with last week, is a topic that we could talk about, and how to use our phones well as healthcare leaders. I think is an interesting topic. But turning off the distractions, there are things that we can do that can help reduce our distractions on those bases. The idea of how we use email as an urgent form of communication, where it was never actually designed for that. So I think our thinking and our mindset around emails, if we respond urgently to emails, people are going to continue to use them as urgent ways to contact you. Whereas we can text, we can pick up the phone, we can walk down the corridor. There are other ways to urgently contact people. Email shouldn't be used in that way. It wasn't designed for that. And we can start to change that kind of concept. So turn off those notifications on your phones. I had a great conversation with someone who struggling with that idea of that open door policy, a conversation a number of leaders talk to me about. They want to be there to be of support and available to their teams. And there is lots of good stuff in that. And they all say that it also means that I get interrupted and I lose focus and I've got to get back on with this. And what was really cool about this conversation is that they had worked out the method that they will create some focused time for themselves that was in alignment with their values, their way of working, and the culture and the environment that they were creating for their team. Now, there isn't a one-size-fits-all here. This worked for that person, and there are lots of different ways. Some people put notices on doors. Some people put flags on their desk if it's an open plan space. Some people can work from home for a short period of time. So there's different ways of doing it. So it's around how do you create that focus space for you, and then using that as best as you can. So there's a couple of things on distractions, but that's another topic we can, go on about for quite a while, really. But they were just some sort of the top of the mind things that have come up this week. But another really important thing that has come out this week for me when we think about that overwhelm and oh my God, there's so much going on, and there's this and there's that, and I'm not going to get on top of this. In those moments where we're just stopping, where we create that space of grab the cushion or put our feet down, whatever it is, let us consider the bright spots that are going on. I had this amazing conversation with someone who was overwhelmed by a lot of stuff, but they started talking a bit more about their week and some work that they were doing. And she described some work they were doing with a young group of nurses, and it was amazing stuff. And I got goosebumps listening to her. And when I replayed back this goosebumps, that's amazing work. Oh my God, that's incredible. That realization that there is actually a lot of really good stuff going on. A lot of good stuff. Every single day, amazing stuff gets done in the healthcare system. Yeah, there's a lot of struggles, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities, whichever way you phrase it, and there is an awful lot of good stuff. I've had 2 conversations with very senior leaders around support days or development days for their teams who are, they were really acknowledging that over the last few years we've had, from the short staffing in general, through COVID, through everything else that has gone on from there, and now the change within the healthcare system, realizing that their senior team members and their leaders within their teams, their clinical spaces, need some energizing. They need something to support them. They need some that encouragement and that hope and stuff. So it was really cool to listen to these senior leaders who were looking to design these opportunities, whether it be through workshops or days, so that they could just acknowledge and appreciate and value the work that people are doing, but also engage and motivate and inspire so that people reconnect with why we're doing what we're doing. There was a workshop I was in not long ago where this team had very rarely been given chance to sit and actually talk about some of the things that matter about how they work together. And the space that they created, where they were sharing things that really quite vulnerable things that they were feeling about stuff, and they were able to support and encourage each other. They had no idea of some of the fears that each other was holding, and so they could encourage each other. They gave each other such positive feedback. It was an incredible experience to watch this team work through those doubts that they had, and to reassure each other. So I think every day there are these opportunities for these conversations to occur, that there are leaders that are thinking about different ways that we can do things, and ways that we can uplift people and bring them together and create those spaces where people can reach out and connect with one another, where you can find the cushion that you can share to work on. You can lay out all the stuff that is going on, and you can look at with each other and go, oh yeah, maybe the water's not that deep. Maybe if I do this and you do that, we're going to be able to make progress together. So there is a lot of this work already going on. So there you go. I was unsure how this week was all going to play out, because I had been feeling as distracted and as overwhelmed as the people I had been listening to. And so it focused me on one fact, as to the fact that this is a thing front of mind, and it needed to be front of mind for me to be able to share it, if that makes sense. I may be losing the plot at this point. So what can we do when we're feeling like we are overwhelmed or it's drowning? We can grab hold of something to ground us, a habit, whatever that be, that gives you that sense of stability in yourself. Equally, you can find the one thing. What's one thing you can grab hold of that you can do some work on? Keep moving, keep doing something. Do something. It can be something really simple, really easy, something enjoyable. Do something that is taking you towards your goals. And who else is there with you? Who can you share a cushion with? Who can you put your feet down together and realise you're only in thigh deep water or knee deep water, or it may be neck deep, but you're still going to be able to breathe. Coming up this week in the No Jedi email, I'll be refining some of these thoughts, and we'll be looking at the 5 things that impactful healthcare leaders do. And I'd love you to sign up for that so that you can be part of that conversation. You can sign up at www.katiequinney.com/subscribe. It's a weekly email that is designed for practical and useful and very pragmatic tips for healthcare leaders. So that's it for this week of the Healthcare Leadership Lounge. I'm Katie. It's been a pleasure talking to you again this week, and I will see you next week in the Leadership Lounge.